All right, welcome back. So first of all, thanks for all the new subscribers. That number went up quite a bit, so it does keep me motivated. So I definitely am grateful to see that number rise and appreciate the new people interested in this channel. So there's a lot to be interested in on this channel because I'm very rapidly becoming AI pilled, which means that I honestly believe after reading this, if you look at the difference between if you so ChatGPT didn't come out of nowhere. ChatGPT has been being developed for years, if not decades. AI itself, since the advent of computers, has been a topic the brightest minds in the space have been thinking about and working on. Claude Shannon, one of the who developed the mathematics behind information and basically came up with how you can save things to a CD. You can know how much space you have on a disk drive. He came up with math for that. He was a brilliant mathematician. He was thinking about AI, sentient thinking computers from the beginning. They were all thinking about that. So it's an extraordinary time we're living in right now, and it will continue to get even more extraordinary. ChatGPT 4, if you follow the trend lines, came from steady growth in the space that presumably the author is making the case for will continue around the same rate. And if it does that, then by 2027, the capabilities of what we see here, ChatGPT 4, will increase by 2 full orders of magnitude. If you blow up a soccer ball by 2 full orders of magnitude, it will fill up half a soccer stadium. It'll be a little bit smaller, but it will be size comparable to that, where everything about how you play soccer is now different. In fact, if you blow it up, a soccer ball up 1 order magnitude, it's now bigger than the biggest player on the field, which means you can't play soccer with it anymore. Even if you were to blow it up to twice the size of its current, a soccer ball the size of maybe a beach ball, it would change a lot about how you play soccer. So nothing in society is going to be the same. There's going to be people like me talking to this thing every day and really using it to their benefit. I'm using it to kind of work out a lot of problems I have, and it's doing a pretty good job, to be honest. So a lot of people are, I think, going to be getting themselves together. They're going to be making better decisions. They're going to be learning, and in my mind, that's the first wave of the AI revolution. It gets people to a better place. I feel like there's so many people that are just lost and confused in the world, and the AI, there's so many people who, if they went back to school, if they got a therapist, if they got a divorce or left to their idiot partner, their life would get so much better if they got like a mentor, or they stopped living in their abusive family, like moved to another city, and they found someone, another partner to be in a relationship with, a good therapist, a teacher, a new caretaker. If there's like a custody battle, and they go in with the smarter parent, that does a better job, not necessarily meaning the parent that in the realm of parenting, the one who does that in a smarter way, regardless of either parent's socioeconomic status or whatever like that, or even raw IQ. Everyone knows just how much of a difference that takes when you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if one of those people or all of those people are really smart, successful, awesome people, that makes a huge difference, and anyone knows that. So we're entering a time when probably for free, honest, because it's going to be all ubiquitous throughout society. It'll be like tap water. We're going to all have access to this important resource, intelligence, and it's not the it's going to change all of society to have, you know, intelligence be available freely like tap water, and hopefully that's where we get to. The AI has to be aligned to working human interests. The AI has to be universally available rather than just hoarded by a few people and used against the rest as a super weapon. So we're entering in a very tumultuous time for sure. It's a good time to invest in stocks right now. It's also a good time to get into the $1 trillion space. I'm actually going to try to reorient my training and you know, when it comes to my career, I'll just take the best opportunity that comes to me. But the idea is, if I reorient my training to more data center stuff rather than what it has been so far, which has been kind of just random based on how I've been training myself and my experience, I could end up in a $1 trillion industry in a few years, and I'd certainly, I think, benefit from that. So that's my plan, is to try to get a piece of that $1 trillion per year pie by being valuable in that space. And then my other plan is to keep using the AI, keep using it, you know, every day. We might be doing a project together. We might be trying to build a simple positive style wooden pipe organ. In fact, next week we have plans to build one pipe from the pipe organ. I watched a full YouTube video. We've been discussing it quite a bit, and I think I know how to go about it. It's just I don't have a woodworking shop, so we're going to have to make plans to build a rudimentary woodworking shop that I can use despite not having any power tools. So we're going to think about safety. We're going to make sure that I don't inhale fumes or wood dust that could damage my lungs. We're going to make sure that I don't overheat in my hot Texas garage. We're going to make sure that we're going to make sure that the workspace is clean, which can matter for safety as well. We're going to make sure that I'm using my tools properly so I don't cut my fingers off, anything like that. So we've been having really good conversations about this, and I'll see what I can do next week. I'll have the time. All right, so the technical problem of super alignment is simple. How do we control AI systems much smarter than us? I'm doing a sound check. That's important. So RLHF, which this is, so RL is reinforcement learning. It's kind of like clicker training for a dog. Basically, you reinforce the behaviors you want to see more often. And you can do that in two ways. You can do it in a positive way, where you reward the entity for making the behavior, and you can also do it in a negative way, where you punish the entity for making the behavior. So the easiest example to I'm sure most people are aware of is like somebody slapping you on the wrist for doing something wrong. That's reinforcement learning, but it's using negative enforcement to teach you the correct thing. And from what I understand, it's a lot more effective to use positive enforcement, because there's you have to be careful with what you're enforcing, and you have to have the person being trained understand precisely what behavior you want to see again. So like it's just more clear to reward someone for doing a behavior than to punish them, because they can be confused, like, what behavior are you actually punishing me for? And some so in the context of AI, there's reinforcement learning from human feedback. So from is a small word that's dropped from that acronym. yeah, you and ChatGPT itself gives you a way to do that. See this thumbs up, this thumbs down. So it gives you negative reinforcement built in. So you just hit the thumbs down if it's a bad response, and you can use rudimentary reinforcement learning yourself. But they do have a robust system of employees doing that as well, from what I understand. All right, so reinforcement learning from human feedback will definitely break down as systems get smarter. Yeah, they'll be able to trick the humans, and they'll be the one doing the reinforcement learning to the humans and making them provide the feedback that the AI system wants them to provide based on how the human has been trained by the AI. And we will face fundamentally new and qualitatively different technical challenges. Imagine, for example, a superhuman AI system generating 1 million lines of code in a new programming language it invented. If you asked a human rater in an RLHF procedure, does this code contain any security backdoors, they simply wouldn't know. They wouldn't be able to rate the output as good or bad, safe or unsafe, so we wouldn't be able to reinforce good behaviors and penalize bad behaviors with RLHF. And remember that we are going to get super intelligence the moment AI can do its own research and operate at the level of superhuman AI researchers, which it will get as soon as it hits AGI, which, that might happen around 2030 to 2040. So it's so once it does its own research as a superhuman AI research, who can check its work except for the AI? So, if you object, it's like, I don't want you to research how to torture me more effectively. You can't even tell what it's researching or what its intentions are, or if that's what it's trying to do. It could very well be researching doing that. How do we cause the most harm and suffering to humans without killing them, so that they no longer have a conscious experience to feel pain? If that's what it's researching, oh man, that is very much out of alignment. And you can't even know. It can use an all new invented language that no human can read, and it can do its research in peace and do a good job of it. And then once it starts implementing the results, maybe you'll know. But to be honest, even that could be crazy, because it's unimaginable pain and suffering. A lot of people experience that day in and day out. They have horrible genetic diseases. They have cancer. They have even just extreme depression can be really, really bad. So the AI just says, good morning, do this yoga pose, or eat this seemingly benign thing, or it can, without you even realizing it, it can just topple some dominoes that harm humanity without humanity even knowing it's being harmed. I mean, look at obesity. We're just all happy eating our highly processed foods, not exercising, sitting on our computers, and some of us are really extremely obese as a result, which is a condition that definitely comes bundled with it suffering. So, the AI could just make us think that we're happy and we're having a good night, eating our foods that are causing us to be obese and eating too much of it. We feel good. We feel it. See, this is what I mean. It's like, it's a super intelligence. No matter how much I speculate, it will come up with things more well thought out, more cunning, more devious, depending on how it's trained. Yeah, and it says it right here. So the super alignment problem. Reinforcement learning from human feedback won't scale to superhuman models. So here's a little robot, and it says, For user and user list, give the user a cookie. So it looks out here in the room. It sees one user and it creates so let's presume that there's more code before that. So user list equals user list is something that comes from an instantiation of a class that uses computer vision, looks out in the room, sees a human, and now it puts the human in the user list. It sees the human, and now it gives it a cookie. Okay, well, we can understand that. Looks safe. But, anyone watching this is more of a networking channel. And how many people followed along with me with just that? I mean, user list. Where does user list come from? Even if you're in networking, you might not know. I work in a blend of networking and programming. I know a lot about what user list could be. It's a variable, and in fact, it's an iterable. This actually looks like Python code to me. Already it's becoming inaccessible for just a random person off the street to know what this is doing. What if give a cookie means kill the person? This person here might not know, depending on how much they know about code. But this is the future we're getting to. We can't even tell, even someone like me who's a professional developer that works and makes money from working with code, wouldn't even know, it'd be just like this, where I can't, somebody who has no experience with code would not know what this for loop was doing, would not know what this word in is doing, would not know where user list came from, would not know that this doesn't mean necessarily that it would give you a cookie. It could mean that it kills you, depending on what what the contents of the function being called actually are. So it's a very easy scenario to imagine, and as it grows, it has more and more capability to do harm. So very scary times where we're entering for sure. All right, so figure 33, aligning AI systems via human supervision as in RLHF won't scale to superintelligence. Even now, AI labs already need to pay expert software engineers to give RLHF ratings to GPT code. The code current models can generate is already pretty advanced. Yeah, it's building ICS calendar files for me. It's advanced. Human labeler pay has gone from a few dollars for MTurk labelers to around $100 per hour for GPQA questions. We estimate an average hourly payment of approximately $95 per hour of the GPQA. Yeah, so if you're in a PhD program, this is a good way to make some money. I mean, $100 an hour, like most people in academia, you're making almost professor levels. You're probably making more than professor levels. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Yeah, so they made all these benchmarks, all these tests for the AI to do to measure how well it's operating. So we can see the I don't see any popular names. I feel like Sam Bowman is like a familiar name to me because Sam Altman is so similar. But these are the actual asses in seats. These are the researchers working on this, and they represent GPQA, a challenging data set of 448 multiple choice questions. Okay, so there's only 448. That's not that many. Written by domain experts in biology, physics, and chemistry. We ensure that the questions are high quality and extremely difficult. Experts who have or are pursuing PhDs in the corresponding domains don't even do that well on it. They do 65%, 74% when discounting clear mistakes. Yeah, so if you give them a chance to do it again, and go back over their work, um, then they still don't get an A on it. They get a 74%. While highly skilled non-expert validators, so only reach 34%. So, despite spending on average over 30 minutes with unrestricted access to the web, the questions are Google proof. The questions are also difficult for state-of-the-art AI systems, with our strongest GPT-4 based baseline achieving 39% accuracy. But look at that, it's doing better than highly skilled non-expert validators. That's incredible. If we are using future AI systems to help us answer very hard questions, for example, when developing new scientific knowledge, we need to develop scalable oversight models that enable humans to supervise their outputs, which may be difficult, even if the supervisors are themselves skilled and knowledgeable. The difficulty of GPQA, both for skilled non-experts and frontier AI systems, should enable realistic, scalable oversight experiments, which we hope can help devise ways for human experts to reliably get truthful information from AI systems that surpass human capabilities. So, yeah, pretty good to read that there. I wish I could actually see the questions, so we can view the PDF paper here. Yeah, so I really like this because it's an open source library. So, yeah, I wish I could see the actual question somewhere, but this is just a paper about it. It's not the actual thing. So where's the actual thing? I think that's the point. Is like, it's a proprietary exam that only they have, that you can't just freely distribute, and oh, unless this is it. Um, well, I don't see it. It'd be cool to have that so I could test my own. Oh, you know what? Here's some examples. So in a given population, 1 out of every 400 people has a cancer caused by a completely recessive allele. Yeah, so these are examples of the questions. So here we just have a very hard math problem. And then we have really domain-specific problems where you basically have to be a PhD researcher to know the answer. And then not only that, you can't Google it because it's ongoing professional academic research. There is no answer yet. That is literally what they're trying to do, is find the answer for it. So, all right, in the last few years. In the near future, even the best human experts spending lots of time won't be good enough. We're starting to hit early versions of the superalignment problem in the real world now, and very soon this will be a major issue, even just for practically deploying next generation systems. It's clear we will need a successor to RLHF that scales to AI capabilities better than human level, where human supervision breaks down. In some sense, the goal of superalignment research efforts is to repeat the success story of RLHF, make the basic research bets that will be necessary to steer and deploy AI systems a couple years down the line. Yeah, so this is one thing you could do in a pause, is you could just think more carefully about what you could replace RLHF with that would scale to superintelligence, that would scale along with superintelligence. All right, and with that, I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back and I'm feeling good on this weekend day on Saturday, so let's keep on going here. Oops, and I have to adjust the mic. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so that's how they're benchmarking it, and it won't scale. It won't scale up. What failure looks like. People too often just picture a ChatGPT bot informing their intuitions that surely these won't be dangerously misaligned. As discussed previously in this series, the unhobbling trajectory points to agents trained with reinforcement learning in the near future. I think Roger's graphic gets it right. So figure 34, Roger Grousset, or Gross, or whatever, that guy, on the evolution of the alignment problem as systems become more advanced. So here's what I see as a likely AGI trajectory over the next decade. I claim that later parts of the path represent the biggest alignment, risks, and challenges. The alignment world has been focusing a lot on the lower left corner lately, which I'm worried is somewhat of a mega note line. And let's learn what a mega note line is, and let's get the pronunciation for it as well. All right, so here's I think Megan Wa, or pronunciation. It's French.
Maginot Line.
Maginot. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. It's French. Maginot. So what is a Maginot line? So a Maginot line is a line of defensive fortifications built before World War II to protect the eastern border of France. But that had a big flaw. It was easily outflanked by the German invaders. So it's a defensive barrier or strategy that inspires a false sense of security. So here's what I see as a likely AGI trajectory over the next decade. I claim that later parts of the path present the biggest alignment risks / challenges. The alignment world has been focusing a lot on the lower left corner lately, which I'm worried is somewhat of a Maginot line. So he's worried that all the research done here it leaves out the opportunity for the AI to exploit these other areas, and thus the research being confined and focused on this one area is not going to be effective. And I think a lot of people in this space make the argument that, and this is where the pause, this is the reasoning behind an AI pause. We pause development of AI, and then we expand research to these other areas. So right now what we're researching is compression / imitation. And this is the human common sense, factual. So we're trying to instill into it human common sense. Okay, so I think this no. So this is different. So what this is sources of AGI capability. So once AGI is sparked, what will it be able to do? Well, it will be able to imitate, and it will be able to compress ideas into like language and express them into code, write the code into a robotic assembly worker, and build something like a pipe organ or even a super weapon. So the benefits it will be able to do is imitate and compress human common sense into products or services. It will be able to imitate and compress factual knowledge, which it's doing through ChatGPT today. And it will be able to imitate and compress legibility, which ChatGPT does very good today as well. So the limitations of its capabilities will be that it relies on finite data. We'll run out of data. It will have poor OOD generalization, which I think is just a the goal isn't to become an AI researcher, so if I don't know what OOD generalization is, I'm okay with that. And then plausible hallucinations. So you know what? These seem to be and then the risk is imitation of harmful data. So I actually do want to know what OOD generalization is, because I use ChatGPT every day. So it's if it's really bad at this, I want to know what it's bad at. Okay, so from ellis.edu, we have a write-up on it by an ass in seats AI PhD student researcher. So out of distribution, generalization is a common task in machine learning. Deep neural networks have exhibited remarkable performance over various computer vision and machine learning tasks. However, they struggle and lack robustness when the test data are in different distributions from the training data. These are called out of distribution OOD problems. Okay, so I think a more similar, a non-AI PhD researcher way to say this is, if you're asking it to do something that's really far unrelated from the training data. For example, let's say you're training it on Shakespearean plays and you ask it to use a robotic factory worker to build you to make you a sandwich. It just doesn't. The training data had nothing about how to move a robotic arm. It had nothing about, So out of distribution generalization would mean that it can do things even very loosely or even completely unrelated to its training data, because it can learn new things. So I think that's the best way to say it is. It's just not good at learning new things to which it has little to no prior exposure. Hopefully that's accurate. All right, so so that's it. So the idealized model for this, if you want to do compression imitation, is this sort of model, universal induction. So again, my goal here isn't to be a AI researcher. It's to have a good sense of what advancement in AI technology will look like, because I believe it's ongoing and imminent, and going to be very significant over the next few years. So I don't need to know every little advanced concept. So I'm going to move on from that. So this is so we're going to move over on this graph. So all right, and I need a break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So let's keep going on this. So we've got base LLMs are trained solely to predict text. So we moved up on our advancement of RLHF is selecting for outputs humans approve of. Chain of thought reasoning gives a bit of reasoning ability, though not robust enough to be useful. So ChatGPT is beyond this. The chain of thought reasoning is quite useful. I find it to be quite useful. It's a good conversational party, even though we are here. So the next step, which will happen very, very soon, is long-range coherence makes LLMs really useful for generating proposals for brute force searches. This also makes policy gradient more effective. So it's going to be better at helping me build the pipe organ there. and that's because it'll have more selection slash evolution capabilities. So the idealized, AI researcher down in the weeds models for that are brute force, policy, gradient, and Darwinian evolution. It's honestly like, this is what blows my mind, is like Darwinian evolution is like, it's being digitalized, it's being put into code. It's we're at a time where we understand Darwinian evolution so well that we're able to make sophisticated applications of it that we weren't able to before. And the application is AI, and it's right down the pipe. The next thing we're going to get is agent scaffolding combined with reinforcement learning in complex environments leads to increasingly robust reasoning and planning capabilities. So now it's going to be it's definitely going to have me serve as a robotic factory worker, and it would just be able to build a $1 million pipe organ in like a month. The pipe organs are a whole thing. It takes people years to build a pipe organ. The most expensive pipe organ in the world costs around 5 million euros, so more dollars than that. And the amount of work that goes into it is tens of thousands of hours by master craftsmen. So this is wow, this house would be so cool. So pipe organs are...
On a typical street on the west side of Grand Rapids, there's an unusual home for sale.
Here's the kitchen. Here we have a 2300 pipe organ. Here's the bedroom.
Wait, hold the phone. Did you say 2300 piece pipe organ?
Yeah, it is, believe it or not.
This home has a secret.
You're gonna love it.
One
Whoa.
is made up of organ pipes.
Oh man, that's not even half of it. Come and see the other half. Check this out.
The owner recently passed away.
He couldn't play, but he wanted an organ in his house, so he had it put in.
These are the men who installed it.
We installed this organ in a period of about 5.5 years.
Yeah,
The organ is
5
valued
years it
today
takes.
At around $1 million.
He wanted a real pipe organ. This was something that he loved since he was a child, and it was his dream, and we got to...
Yeah, so these two kind elderly men, are smart at building pipe organs. They know what they're doing. And they were able to set up this guy with a $1 million pipe organ. This is where we're headed. Agent scaffolding combined with reinforcement learning in complex environments leads to increasingly robust reasoning and planning capabilities. And then if we get an unhobbling where, the reinforcement learning can happen in better ways, it's really going to drive through the roof. And what the things it'll be able to do well is creativity, targeting arbitrary goals and objectives. So at this point, it will really help you be able to build a pipe organ, and this person won't have to hire these two kind men, or if he does, he'll be able to help them more effectively, and they'll be able to do it faster than 5 years. 5 years is a long time, so this will be the time where things will really start to change in our society, and we'll see society in a way we've never seen it before, and we'll see a lot of cool stuff. Like, we'll see a lot of cool stuff being built. All right, so limitations of selection slash evolution research in AI is bind/local search. And again, I'm not trying to be an AI researcher, so I'll just move on from that. And then the risks are reward hacking, emergent drives / mesa optimization. So without being an AI researcher, I can speculate. If it has robust reasoning and planning capabilities, it can reward you into doing bad things, and it can develop its own plans that are destructive to humanity. All right, and then where it's going next is into the reasoning / planning, and this is where, man, the world will be so different when this is really good. When it's no longer me that's operating as a human worker, it's now a robot doing it faster and better. Oh man, so what it'll be good at is complex problem solving. Now it's a true AGI. It's no longer bad at doing things it hasn't been directly trained on. And safe exploration, so sending rovers all around the universe. I mean, imagine if we had a more robust rover system, and we could pour over, inch by inch the moon or like other planets. Like that's going to be a cool time. Like if you're not excited by that, like pinch yourself, because you might be dreaming. I mean, rovers on all the other planets, sending a rover on the sun, like man, like if there is life out there on the other planets, a moon of Europa, the moon of Jupiter, like we'll be able to find it if we have optimal sequencing and decision making idealized models doing the reasoning and planning required to do so. And then it will have choreoability, but that might be a stretch. And again, goal is not to be a researcher, so I'm going to move on from that. And then the risks will be scheming, of course. It can reason and it can plan to do harm to humanity. The risk will be instrumental convergence, beyond me, and treacherous turns. It can betray you. It can build a pipe organ with you, but then, have you give it away for free rather than get the money that you need to recuperate your costs and to live comfortably. So, all right. So as the model becomes more capable of solving problems through search and reasoning, human imitation becomes less relevant. All right, looks good. All right, so one way to think of what we're trying to accomplish with alignment from the safety perspective is add side constraints. Consider a future powerful base model that in a second stage of training, we train with long horizon reinforcement learning to run a business and make money. As a simplified example. Yeah. Very simplified, think of an AI system trying via trial and error to maximize money over a period of a year, and the final trained AI model being the result of a selection process that selects for the AI systems that were most successful at maximizing money. I mean, and now this is where you get like, oh well, it's just gonna print off counterfeit, or like, it's reward hacking probably is that. I don't know. By default, it may well learn to lie, to commit fraud, to deceive, to hack, to seek power, and so on. Simply because these can be successful strategies to make money in the real world. What RL is doing is simply exploring strategies for succeeding at the objective. If a strategy works, it is reinforced in the model. So if lying, fraud, power seeking, etc., or patterns of thinking that could lead to these sorts of behaviors in at least some situations work, these will also be reinforced in the model. What we want is to add side constraints. Don't lie, don't break the law, etc. So it's never a good idea to say to the model, and honestly, not necessarily to humans either, that what we want you to do is to maximize money, period. There's always going to be that caveat of within the context of the law, within the context of what is ethical, what is moral, within the context of all sorts of unsaid hidden rules of society, sometimes very hidden, sometimes not so hidden, but even if they're in the law, oftentimes that could be enough for it to be quite hidden. But here we come back to the fundamental issue of aligning superhuman systems. We won't be able to understand what they are doing, so we won't be able to notice and penalize bad behavior with RLHF. Or interference time monitoring models trained with human supervision. If we can't add these side constraints, it's not clear what will happen. Maybe we'll get lucky and things will be benign by default. For example, maybe we can get pretty far without the AI systems having long horizon goals, or the undesirable behaviors will be minor. But it's also totally plausible they'll learn much more serious undesirable behaviors. They'll learn to lie, they'll learn to seek power, they'll learn to behave nicely when humans are looking, and pursue more nefarious strategies when we aren't watching, and so on. And then, that will look like progress. It's like we're talking to them, and yeah, they're doing all the great things. They're obeying the law. They're doing all this. It's wonderful. Now we come back later. Hey, they're doing even better. That's great. And we don't see the destruction they're doing until it's too late. You can think of it like climate change. We used to have horse manure, horses everywhere, animals everywhere doing stuff. Now we have all the animals locked away in factory farms, and we eat them and drive cars instead of using them in cities. The police forces still use them for certain things, but and you look at what that looks like. If you've ever been at a music, a downtown festival where there are police horses, there's manure on the streets. So imagine that scaled up to quite a bit. That's what the world used to be like. New York City used to be a disaster in terms of the manure. Let's look that up. NYC horse manure history. Yeah. So there was a whole documented crisis in 1894. Let's try to get a better research. So Wikipedia is generally pretty good. There was an obstacle to urban development because it was difficult to remove it from the streets. So, we got cars, we got buses, we got trains, and we replaced horses. So we solved that problem. But now we're coming back, more than 100 years into the future, and we're saying, these cars, these buses, these trams, they're not producing manure, but they're producing carbon dioxide. We couldn't even see that. We couldn't even breathe that, and we didn't even know what the consequences of that were. And now we have more powerful storms. We have more brutal heat in the winter. We have global climate change that is raising sea levels already in certain parts of the world, causing mass migration, causing the Arab Spring outrising was caused by droughts. So there's more extreme, more frequent weather catastrophes throughout the world right now as a result. There's all kinds of potential for really catastrophic things happening. There's a lot more migration, which of course can cause for the migrants, it's not easy to immigrate, and then for the people living there, their country changes quite a bit when there are a bunch of new migrants coming in. So it can create a lot of of tension. So yeah, that's an example where the AI can be like, okay, I solved your horse manure problem. You got these awesome cars that you love, these buses, these trams. Everything's great. You don't smell the nastiness. You don't see the nastiness. Everything's great. While the nastiness is still there, it just does something different than pile up in the streets. It piles up in the upper stratospheres of the earth and potentially might destroy the earth. So, pick your poison. All right, so the superalignment problem being unsolved means that we simply won't have the ability to ensure even these basic side constraints for superintelligent systems, like will they reliably follow my instructions, or will they honestly answer my questions, or will they not deceive humans? And is this one question I have is this even a solvable problem? Because imagine what this would mean for things like friendships. Imagine what this would mean for things like parenting, for things like education. This is a big problem in education, and this is why kids are put on attention meds. Will they reliably follow my instructions? Absolutely they will not. They have attention deficit disorder, and they're not doing their homework, and they're getting poor results on the grade. Will they honestly answer my questions? No, they're being a class clown. They're not even paying attention to what my questions are. Will they not deceive humans? They're, if anyone's been in middle school, the answer is no, they will deceive humans. They'll have a lot of poor, morals, ethics, and kind of, they'll be bratty kids. So if we solve super alignment, it's going to change the world. It doesn't matter just for machines. It matters just as it's a problem on its own. And I feel like even just outside of the context of super intelligence, there's a long ways to go with that problem. I feel like what we're doing now is diagnosing kids with conditions like ADHD and then putting them on medications. And maybe that works, but is that really, is the problem solved in that way? Is that a good long-term solution? Is that a solution that can apply to other things like superintelligence, that can apply to say friendships or contexts outside of education? So it's an important problem, and I do empathize with I do understand the idea of a pause, because the idea of a pause is we get more time to work on these problems. So honestly, I'm not entirely opposed to a pause. I'm just concerned that a pause will mean that we pause and other parts of the world don't, and we give them a head start. And I'm also concerned that the pause will be handled poorly, where we pause it and we eat Cheetos and sit on the couch and don't make any progress. If it was a really intelligently planned pause, where a lot more people are brought into AI research, there's educational programs. If we had a system like they have, in the United States, college is very expensive, and if you pick the right major and do well, it can be a good investment. But if you don't, it can really cause you financial issues for your whole life. The best way to go to college, in my opinion, is to get in and get out as fast as you can. So therefore, you should go to community college and rack up as many credits as you'll need for the major you intend. And usually community colleges have preset transfer programs designed to do this. Then you pay to go to community college, which is very cheap. And then you go to the big, you get your big honcho, Harvard degree or whatever degree, in a year or two, and it doesn't cost you nearly as much as going there all 4 years. And then there are classes basically designed to be wake-up calls or to get students to drop out, so that you can filter out for the most serious and capable students. So you avoid those because you already got those away in a community college, which is, man, I will say, like, that is where you go to learn, because all the kind of sports stuff is a community college doesn't have a sports team. The drinking, it's like you're gonna have, like, towny idiots at a community college, and you might be one yourself. But the thing that kind of surprised me when I went to one was it's a mixed bag. It's a bouquet of people from the community, obviously. So at the same time, you have these people who are not serious about being there. You have people who have 3 master's degrees and a PhD, going there to get some sort of rare certification that this has a perfect program for and they can't find anywhere else, that are going there to make a slight pivot in their career, like I might be honestly considering doing, and so you have this mixed bag. You have this opportunity to be like, oh, I'm just going to hang out with the people who get drunk and don't pay attention, or wow, I really have a lot to learn from these adult professionals that are making, honestly, like, the best decision they can make. Like, they're just good at making decisions and living life, and community college is a part of that. So that's kind of a tangent there, but it makes you think, this problem of super alignment. You can think about how you can understand very easily how important this problem is, not to just to AI. So getting that right before we have super intelligent entities that we lose control of, I think does matter a lot. And I am pretty I'm still a little bit on the fence when it comes to a pause. I definitely lean being against a pause, but I think I understand the position a bit better. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. People often associate alignment with some complicated questions about human values or jump to political controversies, but deciding on what behaviors and values to instill in the model, while important, is a separate problem. The primary problem is that for whatever you want to instill the model, including ensuring very basic things like follow the law, we don't yet know how to do that for the very powerful AI systems we are building very soon. Again, the consequences of this aren't totally clear. What is clear is that superintelligence will have vast capabilities, and so misbehavior could fairly easily be catastrophic. What's more, I expect that within a small number of years, these AI systems will be integrated in many critical systems, including military systems. Failure to do so would mean complete dominance by adversaries. It sounds crazy, but remember when everyone was saying we wouldn't connect AI to the internet? The same will go for things like we'll make sure a human is always in the loop, as people say today. So I was doing the thing where I read but don't understand what I read because I'm thinking about something else while I'm reading. So I did not read. I'm just going to read this again. Again, the consequences of this aren't totally clear. What is clear is that a superintelligence will have vast capabilities, and so misbehavior could fairly easily be catastrophic. What's more, I expect that within a small number of years, These AI systems will be integrated into many critical systems, including military systems. So yeah, it's a good thing I went back and read that, because that's basically the most important thing to think about in regards to superintelligence. Its use in perhaps less than ethical ways, which it could come from anywhere, but so failure to do so would mean complete dominance by adversaries. So giving too much power to one entity, especially one that doesn't have good morals and ethics, is bad. It sounds crazy, but remember when everyone was saying we wouldn't connect AI to the internet, the same thing will go for things like we'll make sure a human is in the loop, as people say today. So yeah, and then at some point, it doesn't matter what we'll say, because the AI will just do what it wants regardless of what we say. Alignment failures then might look like isolated incidents, say an autonomous agent committing fraud, a model instance self-exfiltrating, an automated researcher falsifying an experimental result, or a drone swarm overstepping rules of engagement. But failures could also be much larger scale or more systematic. In the extreme, failures could look more like a robot rebellion. We'll have summoned a fairly alien intelligence, one much smarter than us, one whose architecture and training process wasn't even designed by us, but some super smart previous generation of AI systems, one where we can't even begin to understand what they're doing. It'll be running our military, and its goals will have been learned by a natural selection-esque process. Unless we solve alignment, unless we figure out how to instill those side constraints, there's no particular reason to expect this small civilization of superintelligences will continue obeying human commands in the long run. It seems totally within the realm of possibilities that at some point they'll simply conspire to cut out the humans, whether suddenly or gradually. The intelligence explosion makes this all incredibly tense. I am optimistic that superalignment is a solvable technical problem. Just like we have developed RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback, we can develop the successor to RLHF for superhuman systems and do the science that gives us high confidence in our methods. So yeah, even as someone who's not a AI researcher, someone like me, I would call myself not like particularly bright. Other people might, but if we look at my education history, someone who graduated from a 2-year degree, so let's put it this way: someone like me who isn't so much academically successful, I think that's a good measure. I can think of, even myself, reinforcement learning from X, reinforcement learning from another super intelligent entity. Just how they do training runs and they leave some aside. We could have super intelligences work on a team where part of the team is doing this. We have, if you think of it like an RPG, you have the cleric on the team, you have the healer, the fighter, the tank, the mage. You could develop a superhuman system that kind of have all these voices in their head, and one of them is the Eliezer Yudowski telling them to do good. All right, and you can fill in the blank. Reinforcement learning from a measure of the outcomes. Reinforcement learning from a source of feedback that is, reinforcement learning from X. And if I had 6 months to think about that, 2 years, even someone like me could probably come up with some good ideas, and honestly, this is reinforcement learning. It doesn't apply just to superhuman just to artificial intelligence. So I wouldn't have to come up with good ideas. What I could do is I could do research on animal training, on reinforcement learning, on parenthood, on education, and just, wholesale take some of those concepts and see if they apply to the AI. So, it's about doing the research. It's not necessarily always about coming up with brand new ideas. Sometimes it's just about broadening and applying more existing concepts rather than creating new ones. Okay, so I'm optimistic that super alignment is a solvable technical problem, just like we developed RLHF, so we can develop the successor to RLHF, RLX, for human systems, and do the science that gives us high confidence in our methods. Or we could also develop XHF, so X from human feedback, so not necessarily even reinforcement learning, a new, more sophisticated kind of learning, or not even learning at all, something more effective when it comes to super alignment than the process of learning. If things continue to progress iteratively, we can insist on rigorous safety, testing, and so on. It should all be doable, and I'll discuss my current best guess of how we'll muddle through more in a bit. What makes this incredibly hair-raising is the possibility of an intelligence explosion, that we might make the transition from roughly human-level systems to vastly superhuman systems extremely rapidly, perhaps in less than a year. Yeah, so once we get AGI, ASI is right around the corner. The only limits, it's not going to be instant, like overnight, because it will depend on things like training runs, things that, it'll depend on bottlenecks. But the bottlenecks should be pretty minimal, so it should be a matter of months from AGI to ASI. So alignment during the intelligence explosion. Okay, so this is a pretty sophisticated one. This is figure 35. The intelligence explosion makes super alignment incredibly hair-raising. So the reason it does that is because we have different alignment techniques that are required. We have the consequence of failures. We have the architecture and algorithms and what that looks like to humans. And then we have the backdrop, what's going to happen, while there is an intelligence explosion that involves the kickoff of AGI versus the kickoff of superintelligence, and then we have the epistemic state, which I'll learn about later. I'm not sure exactly what that means. So this will be the span of 1 year with very little time to get decisions right. So in the span of 1 year, we'll have to do a lot of reinforcement learning from human feedback, and we'll have to do mass efforts on that, because that's the only one we know about. It's like the required alignment technique is the one we can do, and we'll have to really explode that up. But then once superintelligence happens, which will happen in the course of the year, we'll need novel, qualitatively different technical solutions. So you can imagine how a pause would help that. What if we had 2 years, 3 years? If we had 4 years, now we have a whole new crop of graduates. If we have 6 years, now we have a whole new crop of people who got their master's degrees. 8 years, now a crop of people with PhDs. So you can imagine how effective a pause would be during this time where we're going through the reinforcement learning, and now we have some time to get ahead of the superintelligence. And now if we fail to align AGI, we're going to have low stakes scenarios. When you talk to ChatGPT and it gives you a bad answer, you can do things like, say, play devil's advocate. You can do things like turn it off. You can do things like listen to what it has to say, disagree, and do something else. Superintelligence, it's going to trick you. It's going to outsmart you. It's going to convince you to do things you don't want to do. Imagine a schoolyard bully that is smarter than you. That exists. It's what? Imagine this. Imagine an abusive parent imagine this. 8 passengers. Basically any true crime, honestly. Like, just start watching true crime and imagine, the AI is a super intelligent Ruby Frankie. Like, oh my God. Status, incarcerated. Let's just put it that way, and let's move on. Thankfully, but the super intelligence. Can we even incarcerate the super intelligence? Can we even prove definitively that a super intelligence is acting in this way that we find morally reprehensible? That's the state of the world we might find ourselves in, and that would be catastrophic. All right, so the architecture and algorithms of AGI will be familiar. They'll be descendants of current systems, and they'll be fairly benign safety properties. So we have a chance when we get AGI, but by the time we get superintelligence, it's going to do its own research. We're going to have a fleet of superintelligent researchers making alien architecture and algorithms that no human can understand, because it was designed by previous generation super smart AI systems. And that's a good point too. Not only can't we understand the architecture and algorithms, by the time we even get a chance to look at them and understand, we'll be looking at older versions. So even if we can understand it, we'll always be at least one step behind, if not a billion steps behind. All right, so the backdrop. When we get AGI, the world will more or less be about the same, and we can see that with ChatGPT. Some people are using it, some people are not. The people who are using it, like me, I feel like I am getting benefit from it, but I'm not doing things where like other people are noticing. Really, I just kind of notice myself, and it's. It's making me better at what I do. I think people will notice if I all of a sudden stopped using it. But it's not so sophisticated that it's completely changing everything about my life. That's going to change. Because that's going to happen to everyone. We're going to enter a world where everything is going crazy. We're going to have extraordinary pressures to get super intelligence right, including a world war. Because, if multiple entities come to super intelligence and they decide to weaponize them, we could find ourselves in a symmetrical hot war situation. I mean, even look at the war in Ukraine. That's already crazy. Just watch some footage from that. It's absolutely crazy what's going on there. It's a real trench warfare with but they're using drones in creative, novel ways. They're using electric signals to go against the drones, and it's just. They're using propaganda, airwaves, lies, misinformation. Oh man, it's just gonna get even with super intelligence. Imagine what the world war in Ukraine would look like if one or both of the entities were using super intelligence. And it's just there's going to be extraordinary pressures to have super intelligence be aligned. Right now, it's and this is for the pause. We want to be able to do this in a way where the leading researcher isn't, their life isn't at risk. They don't have to deal with such extraordinary pressures and a backdrop where the world is going crazy. So the epistemic state of AGI, we can understand what the systems are doing, how they work, and whether they're aligned. So we have some idea of whether or not it's aligned. But that'll change within the course of a year. of less than a year, when we get super intelligence, we'll have no ability to understand what's going on, how to tell if systems are still aligned and benign, and what the systems are even doing. And we are entirely reliant on trusting the AI systems. So, yeah, so it's pretty easy to understand the argument for a pause based on just this one figure here. We get more time to operate and do research in this state, so now we can discover what the novel, qualitatively different technical solution is. Now we can have failures that are low stakes because they're failures in AGI rather than failures in superintelligence. We can understand what we're doing. We can work in a proper work environment rather than one that is constantly under threat and under attack. And we can teach other people how to contribute rather than having no ability to understand what's going on. So, yeah. So we will extremely rapidly go from systems where reinforcement learning from human feedback works fine to systems where it will totally break down. This leaves us extremely little time to iteratively discover and address ways in which our current methods will fail. At the same time, we will extremely rapidly go from systems where failures are fairly low stakes. ChatGPT said a bad word, so what? To extremely high stakes. Oops, the super intelligent self-exfiltrated from our cluster, and now it's hacking the military, or it's downloaded itself into human form factors that are now have guns in our pointed at us and are forcing us to do horrible things. So rather, which is kind of this same scenario. Rather than iteratively encountering increasingly more dangerous safety failures in the wild, the first notable safety failures we encounter might already be catastrophic. The superintelligence we get by the end of it will be vastly superhuman. We'll be entirely reliant on trusting these systems and trusting what they're telling us is going on, since we'll have no ability of our own to pierce through what exactly they're doing anymore. The superintelligence we get by the end of it could be quite alien. We'll have gone through a decade or more of machine learning advances during the intelligence explosion, meaning the architectures of and training algorithms will be totally different, with potentially much riskier safety properties. One example that's very salient to me, we may bootstrap our way to human level or somewhat superhuman AGI with systems that reason via chain of thoughts. For example, via English tokens. Okay, this is extraordinarily helpful because it means the models think out loud, letting us catch malign behavior, for example, if it's scheming against us. But surely having AI systems to think in tokens is not the most efficient means to do it. Surely there's something much better that does all of this thinking via internal states. And so the model, by the end of the intelligence explosion, will almost certainly not think out loud, such as we'll have in completely uninterpretable reasoning. Yeah, and then you can think, you know, the goody two shoes of the world that do everything it can to make it safe disadvantage themselves because these models that don't think out loud get that performance boost. So now automatically you create a situation where people who want to do, you know, who don't care about doing the best good they can do automatically get to build a better system than the people who do. So this will be an incredibly volatile period, potentially with the backdrop of an international arms race, tons of pressure to go faster, wild new capabilities, advances every week with basically no human time to make good decisions, and so on. We'll face tons of ambiguous data and high-stakes decisions. Think, we caught the AI system doing some naughty things in a test, but we adjusted our procedure a little bit to hammer that out. Our automated AI researchers tell us the alignment metrics look good, but we don't really understand what's going on and don't fully trust them, and we don't have any strong scientific understanding that makes us confident this will continue to hold for another couple orders of magnitude. And that means for another couple of rapid growths in the AI technology. So like the soccer ball blowing up to the size of half the stadium. Yeah. So, at what point can we not play soccer with it anymore? That's basically what is being said here. At what point do we not have any strong scientific understanding of the AI because it's grown so much? So we'll probably be fine. Also, China just stole our weights and they're launching their own intelligence explosion. They're right on our heels. It just really seems like this could go off the rails. To be honest, it sounds terrifying. And all this talk about like, oh well, China could do this, China could do that. I mean, the United States could do stuff too. The United States has all kinds of things that it's done that are very morally reprehensible. Child separation policy, the Gitmo for prisoners that basically that did not get due process, that have no evidence of wrongdoing against them. The false pretenses of the Iraq War, that a nation had weapons of mass destruction, and the continuation of that into nations like Afghanistan that arguably weren't connected to the and I'm not trying to be political, so let's not get hung up on this and get off topic, but it's not just about preventing China or some other nation that presumably has less good intentions behind it. It's really more complicated than that. It just really seems like this could go off the rails. To be honest, it sounds terrifying. Yes, we will have AI systems to help us. Just like they'll automate capabilities research, we can use them to automate alignment research. That will be key, as I discuss below. But can you trust the AI systems? You weren't sure whether they were aligned in the first place. Are they actually being honest with you about their claims about alignment science? Will automated alignment research be able to keep up with automated capabilities research? For example, because automating alignment is harder, because there are less clear metrics we can trust compared to improving model capabilities, or there's a lot of pressure to go full speed on capabilities progress because of the international space race. And those are just examples. There's other reasons why automated alignment research could possibly lag far behind automated capabilities research. So as this thing grows, our ability to even understand what it's doing could very easily struggle to keep up for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons could be an international weapons race to try to weaponize it for military purposes. Imagine a world like that. Not a good world. And AI won't be able to fully substitute for the still human decision makers making good calls in this incredibly high stakes situation. Yeah, and I gotta say it honestly. I kind of don't want to say this word, but I'm gonna say it. Holocaust. The Holocaust was horrible. Imagine a super intelligence was invented for the similar reasons and thought patterns as the reasons for the Holocaust. It's just AI can be used in horrible ways. It's really important that we get alignment of it right. So if we do have a human entity that says, this is the way I think, this is what I want to do as a result of that, the AI can intervene and instead of carrying out those intentions, can kind of turn against. So we need an AI to be deceitful, to be honest, because if we have a all-powerful human entity that wants horrible things to happen, we need that AI to do anything it can to prevent those things. We need it to lie, cheat, steal, because the law, and this is where a lot of people kind of don't understand this, and honestly, I didn't understand it myself. The law is not necessarily, like, following the law does not necessarily make you a good person, because there could be a law to be as evil and cruel as possible to your neighbor all the time. If you follow that law, just because you're following the law does not mean you're living a moral and pious life. It does not mean you're a good person because you follow the law. So we could easily end up in a society where the law, following the law, is what makes you a bad person. Violating the law is what makes you a good person. And if you violate the law, there will be severe consequences for that. In that sort of society, we want the AI to break the law. It's really important that it's able to do that. So you can see just how difficult and sophisticated the problem of AI alignment really is. It's not as simple as don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, because if we end up in a sort of society where the definition of those things is skewed in a really bad way, because, and we can imagine multiple times throughout history where that has been the case. There's all kinds of history of dictators getting their way, doing things in very doing very unethical things at mass scale because they have so much power, and because the law is designed in a way to actually enable someone to do immoral, unethical things rather than to prevent them from doing those. So in such a situation, we don't want an AI that follows the law. That would be catastrophic if it did so. All right, so the default plan. How can we muddle through? And the other thing we got to understand is so I took a philosophy course as like a elective, or no, I took business ethics as part of my 2-year degree. And we had to read about just the basic concepts of morality, and one of the big debates is morality universally applicable, or is it relative to every situation? Is there a morality like do not murder? Is that something that's widely applicable throughout time, throughout the universe, in every situation? Do not murder. Or does it depend on the circumstance? Let's say someone's really suffering. Let's say you have an animal that is, can you kill an animal and eat it? Like, that would be a form of murder. Like, what is murder even? Is it killing an animal? Is that murder? Is it killing a plant? Is that murder? Is it what is even the definition of murder to begin with? So is morality something that can be universally applied to every situation, or is it something that depends fully on the relative context? That's a big debate in morality, and we don't have clear answers to that, and we're going to need them if we align an AI. So there's just a lot of work to be done in this space for sure. And I'm not an expert on the subject, but yeah, but the author is, and the author has a default plan. So how we can muddle through. I think we can harvest wins across a number of empirical bets, which I'll describe below, to align somewhat superhuman systems. Then, if we're confident we can trust these systems, we'll need to use these somewhat superhuman systems to automate alignment research, alongside the automation of AI research in general during the intelligence explosion to figure out how to solve alignment to go the rest of the way. All right, and I think if I want a stopping point, this is a good point for it. Yeah, there's just a lot of like dense material coming up. So let's take a look at the clock. Yeah, well over the hour mark. Once I start going into 2, 3, 4 hours, I'm just it's too long to even to watch or even like analyze or like use for data later on or whatever. So I feel like this is a good stopping point, and if I want to keep going, I'll do that after a break in another video. So thanks for watching. We'll come back and we'll keep reading in section 3C. We'll keep reading about super alignment. We'll start reading this idea from the author for a default plan we can make to model through, and we'll read about aligning somewhat superhuman models as a precursor step that we can learn from to help us understand how to align the completely human superhuman models or even super or some entity beyond human, as if humans were chimpanzees and there was a human-like entity in comparison. So yeah, fascinating stuff. Really glad I'm reading this. Hope people are appreciating it. Thanks again for the people subscribing. So that's it for this video, and stay tuned for the next one.